everyone! Today we're going to be making our very own Mickey wire ears. So here are the things you're going to need. You need a headband, a ruler, and then here I have 12 gauge craft wire, or it's about 2 millimeters thick. And I like the thicker craft wire because it's a little bit more difficult to work with, but it'll make your wire ears stand the test of time a little bit more than a thinner wire. You'll also need pliers to manipulate the wire, some wire cutters, and then I have 3 different types of ribbons. So I have 1.5 inch ribbon here, and this is what's going to make the actual bow itself. And today we're going to be making a double bow with the wire ears, and they're 24 inches long. And after I cut each of the ribbons, I did pass a lighter over it to seal the edges. So you just need to briefly pass that over so that they don't fray after you're done working with them. And then you'll also need a 3/8 inch ribbon, and this is about 12 inches long, and that's going to wrap the middle of the bow when you're getting set to finish up. And then to wrap the headband, I have a 5/8 inch ribbon here, and this is about 54 inches. And then last but not least, a rubber band, and this is going to help us form our bow. So let's get started. All right, so first things first, let's go ahead and make our ears. So let's get everything else out of the way for now. The only thing we're going to need is our craft wire, our ruler, and our wire cutters. So again, we have the 12 gauge craft wire here, and what I'm going to do is start to uncoil the wire. And again, it's not super important to form the perfect circle at this point, because what we're going to be doing is just mostly cutting it for length and attaching it to the headband at first. You do want to try to not manipulate it too much, because the more you manipulate it, the weaker the wire will get. So we just want to be mindful of that. So we'll get our ruler, and we're going to measure about 4 inches across. So that's going to be the diameter of the circle that we're going to form. So about 4 inches across. I'm going to tighten mine up a little bit more because it's a little too big. And I'm kind of a fan of having a bigger ear look, but the beauty about doing this yourself is you can customize it to whatever you want. So if you want a smaller ear, if you want a bigger ear, you can really just do whatever your imagination desires. Okay, so I've measured about 4 inches here across, and I want to leave about 2 to 3 inches on the edges, so that I have enough to wrap it around the headband. So now I'm going to just estimate and then cut. All right, so that's one ear. So we've got one ear that's cut, ready to go. So now we're going to go ahead and do the other one. So same thing, we're gonna start to uncoil. And again, don't worry too much about the perfect circle right now, because once you attach them, you're gonna have a lot more control about making it that perfect circle. So we're gonna get our ruler one more time. I'm a fan of measuring, so let's see. So about 4 inches across, all right. And gonna uncoil it a little bit more so I have a little bit on the end so that I can wrap my headband. All right, we'll cut the other side, perfect. So we'll get the excess coil out of the way. So now we have 2 ears, sort of, ready to go. So next thing's next. We're going to get our headband, and this particular headband I just bought at Michael's. It's not the color I want, it's not really anything I want. The only thing it is like an actual headband. But again, that's okay because we're going to be customizing it to do exactly what we want. So now we're going to go ahead and attach them to the headband itself. We're going to attach the ears. Okay, and so 4 is kind of the magic number for this particular tutorial. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our ruler and we're going to measure across 4 inches from this at the top of the headband. And so the reason why I'm doing for that is because I found that for my particular look that I'm going for, it's the most classic look for the traditional Mickey ears. All right, so I see here and here is about 4 inches. And so I've got my pen, I'm gonna go ahead and make a little mark on it. And I don't care about marking on the headband because it is going to be covered with ribbon at the end of the day. So let's see, 4 inches, about right there. Okay, and then from there, it's gonna be right about there. All right, so now I have my 2 markings, so we're ready to go. We're ready to attach the ears. This is probably going to be one of the most difficult parts about actually making your own ears, because you do have to wrap it around this headband. You are going to have pliers to help you out, but it can be a little bit of a task just to get a smooth look and to make sure that they're secure, because you do want to make sure that these are tight so they don't slide up and down the headband. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so to get started, to wrap your wire around your headband, you want to fold the edges up so that they're pointing straight up, and that's going to help you get started with the wrapping process. And so I point them up in the same direction because I am going to lay the headband kind of on top of it, and that's just so that both ears will be in the same plane and that one's not going to be more forward than the other. So I'm going to bring them together on that dot that I made for the center, and now I'm going to start to wrap them, which again, this is probably the most difficult part of this whole project, but it's well worth it in the end because you're going to have a beautiful set of ears. All right, so the first parts you can definitely do by hand, and then once you start to get down to the ends of the wire, you're probably going to have to start to bring your pliers into it. So I'm just going to start off by wrapping it with my hand. And again, don't care too much about the circle yet because that can always be molded after we're done. Okay, so I'm going to start flattening this out. So I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to start to flatten it. And it's going to get a nice tight fit. All right, so we're making progress. So I've got it wrapped around a couple times. And again, we want to keep tightening it as we go along. Probably wrap it just a couple times. You don't really need to keep it going and going and going because this is some pretty sturdy wire. And you'll see that it's gonna hold on pretty well after you're done putting it on. All right, so I've kind of got it wrapped around a couple times each end, and now what I definitely want to do is tighten it, and I'm going to do that so that it stays in place and we're not going to have to worry about it moving around too much on it. So I'm going to go from the top and the bottom with my pliers and squeeze it. Got to get some wrist action in there. Okay, and then kind of move it up and over so that I get that nice Mickey ear shape. All right, now we're talking. Okay, and I'm gonna try to flatten it out as much as possible as well so we have a nice smooth top. And you don't just have to work from one side. By all means, flip it over, go to the other side, check it out, and then you're probably going to get a good angle from the other side as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and go in with my pliers again and push down. All right, so we got one ear on. Nice. I think that edge could be tightened a little bit more. So I'm gonna do that. Now that is sturdy. Look at that. It's kind of coming together, isn't it? So let's do the other side. All right, so now we have both of our ears attached. And again, they're not perfect circles yet, but that's okay, we're gonna fix that. So now what I wanna do is go ahead and snip off the ends of the wires because that's not a good look, having wires sticking out unless you know, whatever, that's what you want. Okay, watch out friends and family because they're coming your way. Get your wire cutters in there. There we go. And I'm gonna do some final tightening because after all, these are the ears of our Mickey ears, so we definitely want them to be on there nice and snug. All right, so now here's the point where I can start to mold them into a nice circle because Mickey's ears are circles. Let's see. And again, with this particular gauge wire, it's the 12 gauge wire. It is a little bit more difficult to work with, as you can see, but you are going to have really, really nice ears if you take the effort to do it. All right, we're ready to go. Now what we're going to do is wrap the headband in 5/8 inch ribbon, and that's going to make the color that we want and it's going to smooth out these ends of we're going to cover up the ends of the wire. So let's do that. And I have black for this particular one, so that's why I kind of wasn't concerned about the headband I chose, because I was going to use this ribbon to wrap it anyways. So let's go ahead and get that done. So I'm going to take it on one end, and I'm going to do a little knot at the end. All right, so I'm going to knot it, and then what am I going to do? I'm actually going to double knot it so that it's nice and secure. And I'm going to actually do the knot on the back side. And you really can't tell that there's a knot there, so it kind of doesn't matter which direction you put it in, because it's going to be behind your ear, but you know, whatever. All right, so now we're going to start wrapping. So I'm going to take the end of the knot and I'm going to start wrapping, and I like a nice tight wrap around the headband because I think it gives it a more finished look. And every time we wrap it, we want to make sure it's tight, and we're going to go up the headband a little bit more. We want to smooth it out as we go along so it looks nice and finished. So we're going to keep on going. So I use my thumb to secure the headband. I use my index finger to secure each addition to the ribbon. All right, so here's a part you're going to want to pay special attention to as you're wrapping your ribbon, is around the ears, because we want to wrap it enough so that we can cover up most of what we've done to the wire, and you're going to have to go through the inside of the ear in order to do this. Now, it is going to be kind of challenging because depending on how well you've secured the wire, you might have it a little bit poking out, which that's okay because this is a project and we can always flatten it down a little bit more. So that's not a big deal. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, so I flattened the wire a little bit more. Now I'm going to keep on wrapping. All right, so we've reached the end. Okay, so in this case, since I had to wrap the wire with a little bit more ribbon than I anticipated, my ribbon actually came up to be a little short, but that's okay. So normally what I would do is tie a knot at the end and then cut it, but what I'm gonna do instead, so I don't have to rewrap the whole thing and make another ribbon, I'm just going to use my handy dandy hot glue gun and glue it on. So I'll take the hot glue gun and I'll do a little strip on the inside of the ribbon that I'm wrapping. Kind of make sure that there's no strings that are going to be extra, and then just wrap it on. Easy. I'll hold it tight so that it is secure and it dries, which the wonderful thing about hot glue is it dries practically instantaneously, and if you squeeze it a little bit more as you put it down, it allows for it to kind of expand underneath, so you're definitely going to have that ability. And something you might want to do afterwards is, if you want to have a little bit more of a secure bond, you can take the end right here, that little flap on the inside, put a little bit of super glue, like craft glue that can secure fabric to fabric, and that'll make it even more secure. So you can always do that. So our ears are ready to go. The only thing that's missing is our ribbon. So I'm going to put this to the side. And so here's what we're going to do. So we're going to do a Minnie Mouse bow. And so I have, of course, the signature polka dots. And I have 2 strips, 24 inches long each. And what I'm going to do to start, and I'm going to make a double bow. That's why I have the 2 strips. You can absolutely use any type of ribbon you want for your bow, and that's pretty much the most wonderful thing about making your own ears, is you can pick the fabric choice, you can make a Donald inspired, Goofy inspired ears, you can do anything you want. If you use a little bit of a wider ribbon to make one large bow, which I love that look, you would want to maybe choose something that has wire into the ribbon itself. It just makes it a little bit easier to manipulate. So what we're going to do, we're going to put the ribbon down, and we're going to put the one on top of the other face down, and face down because we're going to have the right side out. And about halfway up one, I'm going to layer on top the other one. And we're gonna do that so that we create that double bow look. I have trimmed the edges to make it a nice little triangle here, and that's just a nice finishing touch that I like. I did use the lighter to burn off the end a little bit so that it doesn't fray. So now it's ready to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to cross them. So we're gonna take one side, cross it, we're gonna take the other side, cross it. And so we cross it down a little bit and we make sure that it lines up so that it's nice and square. And now what we're going to do is we're going to gather it. So I'm going to take from the bottom and just start gathering it. And there's no real science to it. You just kind of gather it with your fingers and pinch it. And then you have a bow. But how are we going to secure the bow? So what I like to do, my fun secret, is using a rubber band. And this is a sturdier rubber band just so that it doesn't pop. And the thing is with rubber bands, they can dry out, especially after being in the sun. So you want to make sure you have a nice new rubber band so it doesn't pop on you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it around and we're going to secure it in the middle. And that's going to hold the bow shape. So we're just going to do it around and around until it's nice and tight. You can also use a zip tie for this. I've seen other tutorials use zip ties, but I like a rubber band because it gives me the flexibility. If I don't like the way my bow came out, then I can always change it. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we got. Pretty nice. And you see, since I cut the ends to be a little bit more decorative, I don't mind that they're just kind of there, waiting. So there we go. We got a nice little double bow here. And the good thing about the ribbon again is you can manipulate it so that if you want to pull the end in a little bit more or adjust it in any way, you have the ability to do that, which is pretty cool. All right, I like it. I like it the way it is. So now we have to secure it to the ears themselves. And that's where our other piece of ribbon is going to come in. And so you can pick, again, any color you want. I did a smaller polka dot pattern because I want it to be all Minnie all the time. And so that's what we're going to do. So I'm gonna grab my ears that we've made. And I'm gonna kind of center the bow on top of the ears. And so now what I'm gonna do is start to wrap the middle with the other ribbon. And I want to do this nice and tight so that the ribbon is the bow is secure and it's not going to go anywhere. So we're going to wrap it a few times actually. And that's why I kind of have the longish ribbon to go around it. Definitely enough to cover the rubber band is the key. And then as you go, you can kind of adjust your bow so that it looks exactly how you want. All right, perfect. It looks great. So let's turn it over. And what I'm going to do here is tie a knot. And I'm a big fan of knots, as you can see. I prefer knots to actually gluing because I find that I can tighten it a little bit more and keep it more secure. So I'm going to have a nice tight knot and I'm going to double it up. Here we go. Awesome. There we go. So now we're going to have that little piece there, but that's okay. What I'm going to do is actually try to tuck in the ends of the little knot that I made so they're not quite as visible because we want it to look nice and finished from the front and the back. So I'm going to kind of tuck it in, and then you're really not going to be able to see it so that you can make a nice finished set of ears. Awesome, they look great. And the good thing about using this particular method of securing the bow is that it makes it super interchangeable. So if one day you're like, I want to be Donald, I don't want to be Minnie anymore, you can easily start to unknot it and then switch it out. So it's convertible. You do you. That's what's most important. All right, so we did it. We made our homemade wire ears, Minnie inspired, and really the best part about finishing your wire ears is putting them on. Ha! And thank you guys so much for listening. I hope this brought a little bit of magic to your day, and I hope you're able to make your own wire ears. If you do, let me know how they turn out. We'll see you next time.